Jared, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing, man?
Doing good, man. How are you?
Can't complain. Well, we just witnessed. Well, I guess it depends on what your view is, but we'll get into the Champions League final. Wasim, congratulations on your team, especially because you're French and from Paris. Um, why don't let's do a quick intro, who you are and what you do a little bit, and then we'll just hop into the question from the last guest, and then just talk about the game. Um, I don't know. I try to do these every once in a while for those listening that you've been. It's not a consistent sports thing, but once in a while you got to dive in, of course, because it's something I like to do. So, Jared, the floor is yours. Introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So, it's nice to see everybody. My name is Jared Dubose. Um, I play with Eric at a semi-pro club, Arlington Soccer Association. Former D1 and D3 player, played at Radford University and Mary Washington. Finished my entire collegiate career with 11 goals. Won the C2C conference championship with Mary Washington and also made it to the NCAA Sweet 16 with Mary Washington. Um, Outside of that, after college, I also coach at Arlington, coach U9 and U10. So yeah, I'll be doing that the rest of this season and also leading into next season. I'll be assistant coach. And other than that, born here, Woodbridge, Virginia. Yeah, pretty much been here my entire life. And just fun fact, I know probably gonna get a lot of mixed opinions about it, but support Chelsea. I know it's gonna be some mixed opinions, but yeah, man, favorite team, been my favorite team for a long time. So yeah, that's pretty much that's me.
You don't
Um,
have to
yeah.
subject yourself to ridicule nor dox yourself. Nobody was asking you to do any of that. Um, So the question, the question from people who love or don't like Chelsea, put it in the comments. You can talk all the trash you want, and I will not
Oh.
respond to any of it. Question from the last guest, I guess, says, "What's an example of a business design that you made that you wish you could take back?" Now, this is a guy that Steve. He makes like doors for secret passageways. So you know in movies like the bookshelves that are doors,
Yeah.
he makes those in real life for like gazillionaires.
Oh.
So that's where this guy's brain is coming from. So I'm going to tweak the question slightly and say, is there an example of maybe a design of a project um, or maybe in school you did like a paper or something or some sort of project that you did where like the design, some like the planning process, you wish you had done it differently.
Yeah, so lately, and I know it's a common thing, like I know a lot of people kind of have that idea, but for me just kind of, and it's more of integrating like social aspects. So just kind of, getting young players that, may not have the same outlets or same resources to play soccer, play any sport. And they're also probably heavily religious, Christian based, Catholic based, just kind of integrating that with each other. So helping them achieve their goals, get to their goals close to whether they want to play in college, make it to the pros or however they want to do it, but also integrating religion into it if they are religious. So I've kind of tried to I want to try to get that started, just to provide a way for some kids who may not be as fortunate, just to provide a way for them to get that look, get that get that opportunity if they wanted it.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. Okay, let's is there by the way, for people listening, is there a page that people can go to check that out or is not ready yet?
It's not ready yet. Like I said, it's still in the works. I kind of I want to get like a set of people to help. Like obviously I have my family and everything, but I also want to like have somebody who has more business experience because I have like some level of business experience, but I want somebody who kind of already has a business just to kind of help like as far as like steps I should take if there's some that I might have missed. So I kind of want to just have everything set before I really like, launch a website, launch like official things. So I kind of want everything set because once I get going, I want to go. I don't have anything like holding me back or blocking me.
Yeah, 100%. You don't want the IRS banging down your door because you forgot to check a box on a tax form. That would be
Definitely not.
that would be miserable. Okay, so Actually, and then when you launch that, we'll have to get you back on so we can do a launch thing for you.
Right.
Okay, let's talk about the game. So for me, I was running some training sessions this morning,
Mhm.
and they're like, "Oh, who do you think is gonna win?" And I said PSG is gonna win. Uh, but I was like, they need an early goal because I feel like if they didn't get the early goal, then the structure of Inter, kind of how we've seen them in the previous rounds, the more that PSG would open up to try and get that goal, then I think the longer it went without the goal, that Inter maybe would be favored more towards the end of the game if it remained 0-0 or if Inter grabbed one off a set piece or something like that. Um, of course, that's
Mhm.
not the way it worked out. And for me, it showed there was two things that I noticed. One is the maturation of Ousmane Dembele as a player. Dude is pressing all the time, and he didn't score today, but he ran his ass off. And
Yeah.
then the other thing for me was that Luis Enrique, one, I'm very happy for him, given his the situation with his daughter, and she passed away a few years ago, and all these sorts of things. But the tactics, the midfield three that he's got, nobody is pointing to those guys and being like they're the best midfielders in the world. But the three of them work together as a collective unit, and they're just so impressive to me. Those are the biggest takeaways to me that I don't know. What do you think? What are your initial thoughts on the game?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of that I agree with. Initially, that was kind of my pre-match analysis. Just because I don't know, I think it's just my obsession. Like before like big games like this, I kind of just like just to myself, I like to think to myself like, wow, this team's been doing this so far this season, and this team's been doing this. And I just kind of go over like different scenarios. And the main thing that I went over, like thinking about it before the game, is just like if you look at like the previous games, Inter not a heavy attacking team, they're more of a counter-attacking team. So I think that's what they did against Barca. And Barca, I feel like the issue that they had, personally, just what I think they kind of over attacked a little bit because they knew that the longer that Inter stayed in the game, the more chances they would get. And I think Barca wanted to get that next goal and they wanted to get up before Inter had a chance. And I think they threw too many numbers forward, and Inter was able to capitalize on that. And I think PSG, they definitely took some notes from that game, and they what they did well is they attacked really well, like kept possession, created chances, but they also knew that if they committed too many numbers forward, then it would have been
Yeah.
also for Well, Um, I think this game specifically, it's probably it's the most open I've seen Inter like this whole season. It literally looked like they could not touch the ball. And that's credit to PSG, but it's also you can see like flaws with Inter. And I think PSG exploited those really well today. Like you said, that midfield three, they've been almost near perfect all season. And that's really hard because even like some of the bigger clubs like Liverpool, like even the big clubs, like they have some offsets with their midfield. But PSG's midfield there hasn't been one person that's dropped to a level and the other two are doing well. Everyone's been on point and they have really good chemistry, especially. So I think we always talk about Dembele, we always talk about Doué, Barcola, we always talk about, the front three. But in my opinion, oh, sorry about the thing I cut out. You good? You can still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, okay. All right, but yeah. So in my opinion, we talk about that front three, but I'd say in my opinion,
And we're back. Go ahead.
Yep. So just picking up where we left off. Yeah, we talk about that front three. We talk about Barcola, we talk about Doué, we talk about Dembele. We always talk about those front three, which is really important. They've been solid as well all season, but just in my opinion, that middle three, those midfielders have been the key, I feel like. And I think that's probably, I could be wrong, but I think that's probably something Inter Milan didn't pay as much attention to. They were worried about Dembele, and which is understandable. They're worried about Dembele. They're worried about that front three because they've been very good this season. Obviously, like you have Dembele as a Ballon d'Or contender, especially now. But I think that as much as you pay attention to that front three, they also should have paid probably a lot more attention to that midfield because that was the key. I think they controlled almost. all the game today. They controlled most of it, if not all. And I
Yeah.
think those yeah, that's what really exploited Milan because I don't think they can handle it. It was a little bit easier against Barca because Barca's midfield not as still good, but not as strong. If I could, they always have they had like one that was kind of dropped in level. Like you could tell De Jong, like you could tell the key players. You had Pedri, but PSG had Vitinha. They had like yeah, everybody was everyone in that midfield was pretty solid today, and I think that that's one of the points that people didn't really pay attention to as much when watching PSG. And I understand like front three's been solid, even the defense well today.
Hmm.
The
Yeah.
defense well,
There's more balanced the midfield is than some of the other teams.
yeah,
The other thing that I thought was interesting was that DeMarco and Dumfries never got into the attack. And once you turn it into a back five, then not only do you turn it into a back five, this is the thing when you're playing a three a three at the back against a 4-3-3 is
mhm,
that if the 4-3-3 team midfield gets control of the game and the wing backs push high, you end up with one-on-ones along the back five.
yeah,
Um, and that's kind of what ended up happening where all across the field it was one-on-ones, but it was one-on-ones up against Inter Zone 18. Um, and so they couldn't get out. And so like they couldn't get out because two reasons. One, Pacho and Marquinhos, the reading of the game was good, but the
mhm,
cover on the second balls from the midfield was there because there's always one sitting, so they had that triangle, and then there's always a free PSG player to come pick up the second ball, because the midfielders from Inter were doing all the chasing in front of the back five because they had to drop in to be the plus one, um, in the back five, and so tactically, I don't think that. Um, I don't even want to say that the Inter coach got it like wrong, because if it works properly and Inter gain control of the game and the wingbacks push high and he pin Nuno Mendes and Hakimi back, then that's what it's supposed to happen as well. I just think the midfield, like you said, made the difference. And then the other thing that I think was interesting was Kvaratskhelia coming in January.
yeah,
He's unreal, unreal as a like just a threat. He's so direct and is such a handful for. He doesn't let Dumfries get forward because he always needs to be doubling down. Um, because the matchup problems there for the center backs are like Acerbi is old and he's slow. Bastoni is very good, but Pavard is a bit on the slow side as well. So the
mhm,
matchup problems weren't like you just look man for man across the field and you're like, okay, yeah, matchup problem for Inter, matchup problem for Inter, matchup problem for Inter, all the way down the field. And it was like that way against Barcelona as well, but the structure was sound and the set pieces were so good,
yeah,
um, that it allowed them to come through. And what was also interesting, I thought, was you put this in the chat actually, that Barca PSG would have been a more entertaining game, and I completely agree. And so that's why I think a lot of people were hoping for a very even game. And once PSG scored two goals in the first 20 minutes, it was like, nope, that's it, because they're not going to get control of the game back because that's not the type of team that they are.
yeah. I definitely agree. That was one of the other things I thought about before, watching the game. I was interested in how we were gonna go because we knew that, Inter not the best attacking, but if they sit back, because Italian teams, that's one of the main things that people will tell you. If you think of Serie A, you think of strong defensively, sound, hard to break down. And I think that was um that was the game plan that Inter usually sticks with, and that's likely what they're probably stuck with today. But I think that it was gonna be the difference was gonna be who's gonna have the game plan but stick to it. And I think Inter at a certain point they kind of pulled away a little bit from the game plan, and PSG stuck to their whole game plan. They never changed it. They never tried to, be more defensive. They always attacked, attacked, attacked. And lucky for them, they it wasn't even luck, honestly. It was just smart. They were able to get two early goals, and then from there, control the game. And you even saw like early. It was early moments in the game. You would always have Dembele, like if they ever zoomed in, or even on like the wingers. Also, you could just see everybody was just on their toes, ready, like bouncing, because they knew that they knew that Inter would be hard to build out. So instantly. from goal kicks or just possession in general. Defensively, PSG really pressed. They never really sat back until like towards the end of the game when they were up. Then they kind of let back a little bit, but
Hmm.
even then they were still pressing. And I think that's what provided trouble for Inter because Inter didn't really know how to handle. Barca had moments where they pressed, but I think they didn't put enough pressure on Inter, and Inter was able to get out. But I have to give credit to PSG because they had a game plan, knew what they were going to do, and they stuck to it. And I think Inter had moments where they pulled away from their game plan and they kind of looked lost a little bit and didn't know how to handle the pressure.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's what made the difference. And I feel like, it kind of goes without saying that everyone knew which team had a specific game plan, and they knew that the difference would be who's going to follow through with it, who's going to pull away, who's going to kind of pull away from there and try to change their game plan, but who's going to stick with it. And I think PSG, that's where they capitalized. They never once really changed their game plan at all. They always pressed, and once they won it, they were attacking. They're ready to go, possessing, keeping the ball, and even when they lost it, instantly won it back. So I think, yeah, they stuck to their game plan the entire game, and I have to get credit to them for that.
Yeah, 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 100%. I don't necessarily think that there's something wrong with sticking with changing game plan if something is not working for you.
Hmm.
Um, but also when you go down the early goal and the game plan is to stay in the game and try and nick a chance off a set piece, is like you got to change what you're doing. I think to the pressing point though, um, the Barca games there was like Inter would find these moments where somebody would be late on a pressing trigger, and
Yep.
that's how they get out. And today, PSG played like I I've seen stories people being like, "Oh, snooze fest of a game." It's like which if you're a neutral, yeah, it wasn't a great game to watch because it was very one-sided. But from a coaching and a performance perspective, I
Mhm.
think PSG could not have played a better game. Like Inter maybe has some things that they didn't do so well, but PSG was never late on their press. Like the first 60, 75, like first hour almost, probably more than that. They didn't get broken at all. Donnarumma hardly had to make a save. All the pressing cues were good. The angles were good. The spacing was good. Like in the first maybe 10 minutes, Inter build out a lot with Bastoni playing out to DeMarco, and they played a little 1-2, and then Bastoni plays into one of the midfielders, and then they go out the other side to Dumfries. There was no space to do it. They tried two or three times and turned the ball over in their own half, and it's like they're on it today, PSG, the pressing, because there was no space for them to do it.
Yep.
Um, and I want to like it's tough because you don't want to say like, ah, yeah, the game sucked, but it's like no, Luis Enrique had his team set up to play. They executed perfectly, and things just like weren't going Inter's way, generally speaking. Like there'd be hold up passes to Thuram where he wouldn't quite get the deflection off the defender would go right back to Marquinhos or something like that, and just like everything, it felt like it was going PSG's way. And part of that is because you create your own luck, but I think the execution and the follow through and the drilling, and everybody's on the same page, everybody's doing their job the way that they're supposed to. Like Inter just couldn't cope, and when you've got Inter have won games with less talent because they've been the better organized side,
Mhm.
and now they come up against a team that is as organized as them but better talent wise, and that's the result. But it also I think is a testament to how organized they've been all season. Um, that they were able to get this far. But PSG, I mean, just hats off to them. Like, I don't know. There's not really much more to say, to be honest. From like a tactical side, almost, it's like they just knocked it out of the park. Really, PSG.
Yeah, yeah, just kind of picking back on what you said. Yeah, there's not really too much to say, and I can understand and I'm guilty of it too. Just watching the game is it's like, oh, this is gonna be one of those games. It's gonna be boring, and I didn't think it was gonna be that bad. So I was like, oh, this is boring. It's the worst final ever. But just sitting and thinking about it after, it's just you could say that the game was boring and everything, but if you really sit back and like analyze it, go back and watch the game, you can just see PSG. It's not that Inter played awful. I think it's just PSG just outclassed them in every aspect, and I think that that's probably credit to. I'd say that's credit to two things. I'd say it's credit to Luis Enrique, especially since he has experience in these situations. Finals winning it with Barca in 2015. He has experience with these finals, and they even played an Italian team in that final too, Juventus, who was really good that season. So I think he has experience in these finals. He knows what to do. He knows how to handle the press. He knows how to handle teams that are sound defensively. So I think he did really well tactically. But I also have to give credit to the PSG, young team, but that kind of works in your favor sometimes. Young and hungry, team that's never won a Champions League final versus a team that's experienced and has won it before and knows how to handle the finals. And I think that's kind of where Milan just it kind of caught them by surprise. PSG is a hungry team, young, and a lot of people, a lot of neutrals, obviously Milan fans too, thought that that experience would kind of overwhelm PSG. But I think that just that young mentality, that hungry mentality of we're gonna win. They can be older than us, they can be more experienced, but we're gonna win. We're gonna stick to this game plan. We're gonna attack, 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 and just not let up. And I think that's ultimately why PSG won. And I can't say Milan played awful. It's just PSG was just too good on the day. But
They were.
yeah,
That's exactly right. I just like as a neutral, you could say it wasn't an exciting game, but also like let's appreciate how good PSG actually were that day. It reminds me somewhat of the like those Barcelona teams in like 2009, 10, 11, like the 5-0 El Clasico.
yeah,
Like if you're a neutral, it's like that's not a very exciting game. But also Barcelona were so good that day that or like the Champions League final against Manchester United, the 3-1 in 2011. It's like they're so good. That's like okay. Well, this is not a fun game to watch, but I'm gonna appreciate how good they actually are, like the level of talent and skill. The other thing that nobody really mentioned, which I thought in the coverage, or at least I didn't recall hearing it that much, was Kylian Mbappe only left this past summer. Like he was only mentioned in when they were talking about how they built a team and they had the superstars and now they've got a complete kind of team and they press together and whatever. Nobody mentioned that Mbappe left less than 1 year ago, and as soon as he leaves, Champions League final. Now, I don't remember. I think was Doué brought in this summer. But if I recall, it was Vitinha and Joao Neves and Fabian Ruiz. They were all there last season. Is that if I have my memory correct?
I believe so. I want to say Dewey was brought in this season. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure. I know Vitinha. I'm not sure about John Neves, but I'm pretty sure Vitinha was definitely in the lineup last year.
Yeah. So the team didn't obviously losing Mbappe is a big change to your team, but in terms of like the rest of the team, they didn't change that much. Like Hakimi was there last year, Donnarumma was there last year, Marquinhos was there last year. They brought in Pacho, but they had Kimpembe before, another left-footed center back. Um, Mendes was there, Dembele was there, obviously, Ramos was there. So they had similar kind of players, and it shows. Did you see that clip of Luis Enrique not yelling, talking firmly to Mbappe about how Jordan played great defense?
No, I didn't see it. No.
Okay, I don't know. There's some clip from like last year before he leaves where he's like, "You have to press from the front. You need to be the leader. You say you like Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan played great defense. Yada yada yada." And then the knock on Mbappe always was like he didn't want to play defense, or
Yeah.
he didn't want to press. And that to me was very evident. Like this PSG team looked a lot different than it did last year with just the one personnel change, and that was very. I don't know. I don't watch PSG that much. Um, But to me, and then looking at Real Madrid's struggles this year, it makes you wonder because Mbappe's talent speaks for itself, but it makes you wonder how, like, if you're a club, how you go about constructing your teams for the greatest success.
Mhm. Yeah, I think there's obviously like people kind of just making fun of or trolling Mbappe saying like, oh, he left and now look at PSG, they won it. And I think personally, I don't think it's I don't think he was necessarily the issue per se. I think he was
Hmm.
more of their game plan or their style of play changed. Because you have, like you said, you have essentially the same lineup. And I think the one thing that changed is yes, you take Mbappe out the team, but it's more of yes, he's out the team, but now you leave the other players, you give them a chance to show their true qualities and what makes them special. I think initially when he was on the team, it was they had moments of showing their talent, showing their abilities. but for the most part, it's Mbappe. Mbappe this, Mbappe that. If Mbappe's not on the day, then PSG essentially kind of falls apart just a little bit. And when you take him out the lineup, and this goes for really any team, if you take like, one of the big players, and we even saw it with, and it's not technically just the concept is kind of the same thing. You take Messi out, obviously it's Messi. Messi controls the team and everything, but you take him out, and it's like, okay, what do we do? Other players have to step up. And you took him out. It took a little while for them to, kind of find their balance. But after a while, you see Barca is more of a team. It's not really one person. And I think that's the same concept with PSG. Yes, they took him out, but other players stepped up. They were able to show their ability, show their quality. And, we even saw with Dembele, just I'm sure a lot of people would agree that at Barca, he didn't do awful, but compared to what he is now, he didn't really show what he was capable of. But now, Mbappe's gone, people have to step up, and Mbappe going from, kind of not starting or not playing injured at Barca to potential Ballon d'Or winner. That just that's just credit to that's just credit to him for realizing his ability, remembering who he is, and then once they take Mbappe out, he's able to show that and step up, and that goes for every player. I think when you have one person and the team is technically or mostly centered around them and how they play, it's uh it's hard for other players to show their ability. But when you take them out, then it becomes more of a team, and I think that's what PSG is now. Instead of
Yeah.
Mbappe, it's a team, and yeah, I think that makes a difference when you have
Yeah.
one. That's also the thing why that's also the reason I feel like Madrid struggled this season. I think that they rely too much on their key players and just kind of positioning like you have three left wingers, and it's kind of difficult to just kind of position everybody to where they're able to show their abilities, just kind of where it fits them best, where they're best suited. And I think that's Madrid's kind of still in the process of like figuring out, okay, where do we put Mbappe? Where do we put Vinicius? Where do we put Rodrigo? And that's where they're struggling. So yeah, I think that removing some key players would be beneficial for a lot of teams just because I understand you need that player to provide that spark. But at the end of the day, it's a team sport. You can't have the team rely around one person because then the rest of the team can't really show what they're capable of. They can't step up. They can't show that quality and be there when you need them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's credit to PSG.
I think also for Dembele specifically, that I think he's only what, 26, 27 now?
Yeah, he's still pretty young.
Like he's been so talented for so long that people it's like I don't know if you remember this playing like video games when you would buy like young players in like career mode or whatever,
Yeah,
and then you like when they're 30 you sell them because they hit their prime at like 26, 27. It's like Dembele feels like he's been around for so long, but he's about to hit his prime in terms of everything, like what's traditionally considered the prime, like mid to late 20s. And so for all his inconsistencies, it's like, well, this is kind of like what everybody was hoping he would be, but also like he's still young. So it's like, I don't know. Um, I think for a lot of young players, like the young ones that show up and consistently day in, day out, like I mean, like Yamal is like that's the exception. Like other people are not going to be him. As much as people want them to perform like that when they're 17 or 18 or 19 or 20, week in, week out, like that's the exception. It's not the rule. Like Kubarsi is the exception. He's not the rule. Like it takes people time to develop. Both is really like the experience decision making thing. Like there's a reason Acerbi can still play when he's 38 or however long he is, because he reads the game and like that stuff comes with time and experience. Um, okay, anything else on the game before we move on to maybe some summer transfer type things that are going on? Any other thoughts on the game?
no, I think we pretty much hit on everything. Like I said, I don't think there's much more to be said about it. We pretty much hit on everything. So
All right, for Chelsea, for you guys, top four finish. Some might say that you're lucky. Some, well, I'll leave it there. What is next for you guys? I did see a tweet actually that Manchester United was interested in Nico Jackson, but I might have been sent-held and duped by that. But what for you guys this summer? What's the kind of what do you think you guys need to get better in? Players to stay, players to go. Actually, you know what? well, you can start, but I'll pull up the roster, and then we'll kind of just go from there.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, so I think the main things, just from what I've seen, Robert Sanchez, just to start in the back line, Robert Sanchez did better late in the season, a little bit better, but we could see from the beginning of the season, a little bit past the half of the season, he struggled a lot. And, obviously keepers have moments, players in general have moments they could have one bad season and then be amazing the next season. So I won't say that, he's a terrible keeper, but I would just say that having a more, experienced keeper, just a slightly experienced keeper, I think that that would help a lot. And that kind of goes without saying, just in general with our team. I think experience is one thing that we're lacking. And I have no problem with having young players, but I think when you're in situations like the game against Nottingham Forest, we were able to get past it. But I think in those type of situations where the game can go either way, you lose. Now you're struggling to find a place in Europe, trying to find a European competition to compete in. But if you have experience, you know how to manage the game. If you're up, you know how to manage the game, how to find a goal. And I think that's kind of where we're lacking a little bit, just in experience in general. And that's what I'm hoping we kind of aim for in this transfer window, this upcoming transfer window, is just getting some experienced players. We don't have to, I'm not saying we have to get like, you know, 30 plus year olds or anything like that, but just somebody who has experience with those situations, who's been on big teams or just been on teams in general, who've been in those positions and know what to expect. And I think we're
Yeah.
missing, yeah, I think we're missing a Thiago Silva. Thiago Silva, obviously one of the greatest defenders in my opinion in history. Honestly, one of the greatest defenders. And I think when you think of leader, he was truly definition of a leader. I think we need that. We kind of need in the player with experience who's willing to step up. We have Reece James, yes, but I think sometimes he can be kind of just quiet in games, and he does well. He does well at times, but I think that in some games he can be a little bit quiet and he's not really. I think he's more of the captain or leader because he's been there the longest. I don't know if it's because he steps up and he's really pushing the team and controlling the team and telling them when to step up. We have to compete. I'm not sure if it's because he has that mentality or if it's because he's just been there the longest. But I think we need an experienced player. I think that is one thing that we need to hit on this transfer window. And then I'd say we just got Delep. Me personally, I know a lot of people are going to disagree, especially some former Chelsea fans or some other Chelsea fans that I know. Some people are going to disagree that it's a questionable transfer, questionable pickup. But in my opinion, if you look at his season, he had two more goals than Nico Jackson, 12 goals on the season. And especially playing at Ipswich, who's not, you know, big six level or anything like that, but to get 12 goals through all of that, I think that's very impressive. And especially if you look at the two times that they played us, he was the standout player and he really provided us trouble. I think that was a lot of time. That was a lot of the time where, because if you look at the games when we played them, it should have been, us just steamrolling over them. But sometimes we had to watch out for a counterattack because he was able to hold up the ball. And even if he had chances to go 1v1, he would do it. He would take it on. And I think he's very dynamic. I think he's not really one way or the other. He can hold up the ball well, but he's also, if you need him to attack, he'll attack. And he's more of a natural finisher. And I think Nico Jackson, he has the potential, and I was hoping to see it this season. But I think that he finds himself in those positions. He gets in the positions well. His movement excellent. And
Hmm.
as far as a natural striker, he is a natural striker. But I think the finishing aspect, it's easy to get in those positions, but I think we need him to finish, and he hasn't been providing that lately. And I think, essentially we need a striker that just finishes with instinct, just knows
Hmm.
where to be, the right time to be, and when to finish. And I think that's what we're missing.
Yeah. I see
Yeah.
two news things on the ESPN app that you guys are looking at. Branthwaite from Everton,
Mhm.
who, and Kobe Mainu, both of whom are under the age of 23. And as I was going through your roster, there's only one player over the age of 27, and that's a backup goalkeeper, which I was a little bit surprised by. It's like you guys are super, super young, like younger than I thought. How do you feel about Branthwaite and Kobe Mainu, the rumors?
Uh, Brentwood, I think I'm not sure how much he would help us per se. I don't, like I said, I think just the main thing for us was just kind of finding just a natural goal scorer. I'm not sure if Braithwaite, I'm not sure if he would help us. I'm not, I don't know if he would adjust to the system, but and I say adjust to the system, but we still haven't really quite found our system yet. So I don't know. He could come in and then we could change the system and he could fit well into it. But as far as right now, I don't know what he would contribute or like what we're missing that he would be able to fit into. So I
Yeah.
can't speak too much onto him. But Kobe Manu, I think that's kind of a toss up. That's a 50-50, because we already have a pretty solid midfield. We have Cole, we have Enzo, we have Caicedo, we have Latvia. Like we have a pretty solid midfield. So I think Kobe Manu, he'll provide us with, a little bit more balance in a way. Like he's not, too attacking. Like he can defend as well. But I think it'll kind of be hard to fit him into the midfield just because of how strong our midfield is already. But
Yeah.
yeah, in instances where you might need Enzo to take a break or injury, I can definitely understand like bringing him in. I think that's one of the other things that we were missing too is a little bit of depth in a lot of positions that we had. I think our forward line was pretty decent. We had depth in that. We had players coming off the bench who provided chances, worked hard. But I think in the midfield we only had a few options that would keep the intensity up or bring the level up, and I think that's kind of a position that we're lacking. That part of the team is where we're lacking a little bit. So I think we bring in Kobe Mano. I don't think I would have an issue with that. But my main thing is just if we're gonna buy players, how are they gonna fit into our team? How are they gonna, eventually hoping we find a system, find a system that suits us, whether it's possession or counterattack or, just defensive and then counterattack. I wanna see how these players would fit into our system.
Yeah, yeah, completely
Yeah.
makes sense. So, like looking down your roster, are you kind of the opinion that, yeah, Delap is a good pickup, and then after that, kind of leave it alone and see what happens?
Yeah, yeah. I definitely think that, like I said, especially for 30 million, that's really a steal. I feel like I think
I
he's
agree.
yeah, I think he's in to some people, guys that people that have watched him consistently this season. I've watched him. I don't watch every Ipswich game, but the games that I have seen, the highlights that I have seen from him, it doesn't seem like his consistency drops. Every player has those games, so I won't hold it against him. But I think he's been consistent all season. So I think bringing him in, especially when you have Nico Jackson, who hasn't been scoring as much. This season he was okay. He was a little bit decent, but I think bringing in another striker, kind of provides that healthy competition. So say the lap comes in and then he starts going off, scoring goals left and right, doing really well. That could kind of motivate Jackson to, okay, yeah, he's scoring goals. Now I need to step my game up. So I think providing that healthy competition would work well, I feel like.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. I'll put you on the spot. Champions League winner for next year and Premier League winner for next year.
Ooh, Champions League winner. I just based off how they did this season, unlucky in the Champions League, but based off how they did this season and looking at the people that they're bringing in, my instant thought will have to be Liverpool. And then the league winner, I think it's going to be between Liverpool and City. I think Arsenal is kind of an underdog. I feel like it's been in three like the past seasons, but I think it's between Liverpool and City next season. But I think depending on who Arsenal picks up, it looks like they're picking up some good players so far. If they somehow get Goyers from Betis, excuse me, not Betis, Sporting, excuse me.
Uh-huh. Oh, the Swedish guy. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
If they manage to get him, I think that'll be a huge, huge boost. I think that'll definitely increase their chances of winning it. But as of right now, I think it's a toss up between Liverpool and City just because of the guys that they're bringing in. I think it's
I'm gonna
I
make you
don't
pick
think
one.
oof, um I'm gonna say City. I'm gonna say City.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So, Looking at some other kind of newsy things from transfer rumors, Liverpool looks like they're trying to bring in Florian Wirtz and then Benjamin Sesko from Leipzig. So if
Mm.
they bring in Gyökeres from Sporting, maybe, but if they bring in Sesko, then they're not going to go for both. Um, he did score. He has scored 27 goals across the last couple of years, Sesko, but he's also super young. Let's see. Arsenal and Chelsea are looking at Rodrigo's situation at Madrid. Do you have thoughts on that as a Chelsea fan?
Yes, especially during the game today. That was the one thing I was thinking of. Just Champions League next year. That's the one thing I was definitely thinking of is bringing in Rodrigo. I think he would definitely help in our system. We have Neto, we have Madueke, but I think putting if you were to take Rodrigo, who's naturally a left winger, and I think for the position that he's in right now, Madrid, he's doing well in the right wing, not his natural position. Though. I think for us, needing a left winger would really help. I think Rodrigo, if you put him in the position that he's meant to be in, you get a lot more out of him. And like I said, at Madrid so far, he's been doing his job. I think he's arguably, and a lot of people are going to disagree, but I think he's very underrated. I think he's one of the most technically gifted, but also hardworking on Madrid. I think, you know, from at least from the games that I've seen, Vinny and Mbappe aren't really that defensive or able to work back. I think between that front line, I think it's Rodrigo, and then you also have Jude, who are up and down the field. I think they're the most hardworking players in that front line. I think if we're able to get that on Chelsea, if we're able to get that on our team, I think it can definitely help a lot. I think we had times where Cole Palmer would help out defensively, and we had our front line helping out defensively a lot of times. But I think after a while, they start to get tired because they're constantly attacking, constantly defending. Because there were times where we would give the ball away, so we're constantly having to defend, defend, defend. And I think you're going to need players that are hardworking defensively and offensively, especially when we lose the ball. You want them to win it back. And I think Rodrigo epitomizes that. I think when you think of hard work, he's constantly, constantly working offensively, defensively. And I think that'll definitely help us, especially needing a left winger. I think he'll definitely help it fit into our system.
Yeah, makes sense. Last kind of maybe thoughts, De Bruyne to Napoli. You have thoughts on that?
Uh, I, I don't know about that. I don't know if it really changes Napoli's position technically. I mean, obviously it's De Bruyne, like one of arguably the best midfielder in the world. So like, and really just in the past few years, especially this decade, I feel like one of the best midfielders. So I can't disagree with it. I mean, it's De Bruyne. I mean, if Chelsea had him, I'd be happy, but I'm not sure how much he would change Napoli's style of play. I think obviously like, needing a midfielder to have that vision and everything, I can understand that. But I'd be interested to see how much of a change he adds to Napoli. I'd be very interested because just from my opinion, it's an odd transfer. I thought he would go to somewhere a little bit more he'd be suited where you could think, oh, that makes sense why he would go there. But I don't know how he would change Napoli's style of play or like how they. I'm interested to see how they'll play him, how they would make him a key part of their system. But
Hmm.
like I said,
Well,
it's
they did
the
win the league, so
yeah.
um, who knows? That's for sure. Any last Nichols before we wrap up?
No, like I said, whenever the PSG game, like I said, goes without saying, PSG played phenomenal. And talked about the summer transfer window, talked about the predictions for the league winners, UEFA Champions League winners, and I think we hit on it pretty well. I said everybody's gonna have mixed opinions, and that's why I love it. Just hearing mixed opinions, hearing what everybody thinks. So yeah, and fortunately, gonna have to listen to a team tomorrow. It's gonna be disappointing, but yeah, I have to give respect to it. But yeah, I think we hit on everything pretty well.
100%. Let us know your thoughts in the comments on the game, the transfers for your club. If you hate Chelsea, put those in there as well. And we'll see you guys next time. Thank you for listening. And we'll see you guys next time. Peace. Thanks for tuning in to the World XP podcast. If you want to watch another episode like this one, click there. If you want to subscribe, click there.